What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh House. I got back from the DR and I see that, guys, we hit 100 subscribers. It's a huge goal. I can't thank you enough for all the love and support you guys have been showing. So today, I'm bringing something really special, a Dark Magician deck profile inspired by the anime itself. I won't waste too much of your time. Let's go ahead and get right into this. Of course, it wouldn't be a Dark Magician deck without the bad man himself, Yugi's favorite boss monster. Dark Magician is what gave birth to the now several billion-dollar industry that Yu-Gi-Oh is. We wouldn't have been able to have so many spin-offs if it wasn't for how badass this monster is. And guys, comment down below, tell me what your favorite art of Dark Magician is. This is the card art with the most alternate arts, so there's plenty to choose from. Make sure to let me know. It wouldn't be a Yugi inspired deck without Joey's boss monster, Red Eyes Black Dragon. The insane fusion monster in Dragoon becomes even more powerful when using two normal monsters for its fusion summon. Of course, we have to include Dark Magician Girl. This turns Eternal Soul into Pot of Greed. Being able to draw two cards in the later stages of the game will really throw all the advantage in your favor. An insanely powerful card, Magician Souls has a long-standing history in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! So of course, this card is so essential to the Dark Magician deck, and it provides a lot of insane plays. Special summoning from the graveyard your Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl. And on top of that, its draw effect is insanely powerful. This deck needs all the consistency it can get, and Magician Souls helps facilitate that. The best normal summon in the deck, of course, goes to Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod searches out for any sort of spell or trap that mentions the Dark Magician and gets those combos started. It also has a very important graveyard effect, interrupting your opponent on their turn, being able to recycle this card, which of course is so important. Adding follow-up and providing further extension. Of course, guys, I'm bringing you a pure Dark Magician build, so it felt so necessary to include Apprentice Illusion Magician. Not only is she a free extender that replaces the card that she discards by searching for the Dark Magician, she's a level 6 body. And of course, we all know how powerful Beatrice is. If you're aiming to take this deck to locals, I do recommend you tweaking the numbers a bit on this, adding more floodgates to help you really control the game. Timaeus the United Dragon is a welcome addition to the deck, helping you put up Dragoon and also providing a pretty beefy body. Timaeus the United Dragon really does a lot of heavy lifting in this deck. Next, one of the most powerful support cards ever printed for the Dark Magicians, the Illusion of Chaos. This card provides so much consistency to this deck, being able to search for any of the monsters I just showed you, with the exception of Red Eyes Black Dragon. Not only that, if you do manage to ritual summon this card, its negate on field is too good to sleep on. The bread and butter of the Dark Magician deck, Dark Magical Circle. Not only does this card dig into your deck to help you search for more spells to help keep pushing, it also triggers when the Dark Magician is summoned to banish a card on the field, which is so vital in this control-based strategy. As I mentioned before, Soul Servant adds so much consistency to this deck. Placing any card that mentions the Dark Magician on the top of your deck, and then banishing itself from grave to be able to draw you a card, or even two if you have Dark Magician Girl in grave. This is easily one of the best cards at the Dark Magician's disposal. And luckily, this card did just get reprinted in Legendary Duelist Season 3, so I can finally get rid of my Korean copies. Magician Salvation is another new great card added to the Dark Magician arsenal. It sets Eternal Soul directly from the deck and combos really well once you have Dark Magician Girl and Dark Magician in your graveyard. Not to mention, this is one of the most free sends off of Magician Souls for a draw. Secrets of Dark Magic helps you really push for game since it's a quick play spell and you get to decide whether you're ritual summoning or fusion summoning, and in this deck you can do both. Putting up the Illusion of Chaos, Dark Magicians, or even Dragoon on a quick play spell is insanely scary. Eternal Soul is the double-edged sword in this deck, being the easiest way to proc Dark Magical Circle with a heavy restriction to blow up your entire field if Eternal Soul leaves the field. So it's really important to keep in mind when you're activating this card. And of course, if you're looking to take this deck to locals, I would bump this down to 1 to fit a couple more hand traps, board breakers, or even floodgates, because in my opinion, this deck functions best as a control-based strategy. Now getting into some of the out-of-archetype support that feels so at home in this deck. I run 2 Diviner of the Herald to round out 5 normal summons in a 40 card deck. Diviner of the Herald searches for Illusion of Chaos, and this deck is a 1 card Crystal Wing, and being able to put up hard negates in a rogue strategy is so important. One of the most insane fusion cards ever printed, Red Eyes Fusion. This card is insane as a 1 card Dragoon to start your turn or to help clap back against your opponent. And of course, in turns 2 and 3 is when this card is really scary. Not to mention, your friends are going to flip when they see this is activated, because they already know they're going to have to deal with one of the baddest boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! In Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. Of course, Magical Eyes Fusion doesn't name Dark Magician at all, so it isn't technically searchable, but Magical Eyes Fusion is a very powerful one-of in the later stages of the game and can even help you put up a second Dragoon because of course he's a spellcaster type monster. Preparation of Rites is here for consistency, but of course can be cut for really strong trap cards like Solemn Strike or a generic hand trap like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And for more spellcaster synergy, you could opt to run things like Droll and Lockbird and Effect Veiler. But outside of that, Preparation of Rites really helps the consistency of this deck. Seeing the Illusion of Chaos as much as you can assures your combos have plenty of extenders. And of course, if you do opt to run Preparation of Rites, Salravis is one of the best targets for it. Being able to protect your monsters from targeting on a hand trap like effect puts Salravis at such a comfortable spot in this deck. Searchable through Diviner of the Herald and Preparation of Rites, I really don't see a reason to cut this card. And to round off our 40 card deck, the best floodgate available to the Dark Magician strategy is Skill Drain. This card will steal you so many games and outright beats so many decks. Be aware this will shut off your Dragoon, so it's best to flip this when you're just beating down with the Dark Magician. Now for the insane extra deck. The Dark Magician extra deck is so vital to this strategy because it irons out a lot of the problems that the deck has. Starting off with the Dark Magicians, it provides a layer of consistency, and if you manage to draw into your crazy spell and traps, you can actually activate them that turn. And if your opponent manages to get rid of the Dark Magicians, it does provide follow-up by fetching the Dark Magician Girl and the Dark Magician. And to round out our fusions, one of the baddest boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. This card of course saw meta relevancy as a splashable engine in so many decks, but of course it's at home in the Dark Magician deck. The biggest homage to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise as a symbol of friendship between Yugi and Joey. Konami decided to slap a negate on this card. And don't worry, this card is still easily accessible by hard drawing Red Eye's Fusion, which is not limited in any sort of capacity, or you could even make it with Tomaya's the United Dragon or Secrets of Dark Magic. Link Spider is a great monster to have access to in this deck because it allows you to use Eternal Soul to bring it back and then banish a card off Dark Magical Circle, all while putting an extra body on the field to help you keep extending. Link 1s are just so inherently powerful. Being one of the best Link 2s out right now, IP Masquerena is so good in this deck because it provides a layer of interruption on your opponent's turn through the Nightmare cards, and can even put up Apollosa, who won't be able to be destroyed by card effects. Dark the Dark Charmer is another great Link 2 monster and is so good in this strategy because of how prevalent dark monsters are in today's meta. Not to mention, of course, this monster is a spellcaster, so it does have a layer of synergy with its typing. Nightmare Unicorn is one of the best Link 3s in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. Being able to spin back a card on the field while fueling your graveyard is just way too strong. Not to mention, you can bring this card out with IP Masquerena on your opponent's turn as some really strong interruption. Selene is easily one of the greatest spellcaster Link monsters ever printed. It takes full advantage of all the spell cards we run in this deck and can even bring back the Dark Magician to prop Dark Magical Circle. Yugi's secret boss monster, Blackluster Soldier, has one of the greatest retrains in history, an insanely powerful Link 3 with a plethora of disruption during the battle phase. You do have to commit 3 monsters to this card, but it will definitely reward you for doing so, because when you use a level 7 or higher monster, the Soldier of Chaos becomes even harder to get rid of. As I mentioned before, being able to put up several negates in a rogue strategy is so important, and Apollosa herself being able to provide up to 4 negates is way too powerful to pass up on. One of the most generic boss monsters available to any Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck is Access Code Tucker. This card is insanely easy to climb into with Selene and can wipe your opponent's entire field with all the Link monsters you play in this deck. And it's kind of wild to be able to see Playmaker and Yugi collab like this. Of course, since I run Diviner of the Herald, I have to run Herald of the Arclight. Being able to send this card off Diviner of the Herald and then searching for the Illusion of Chaos is some insane synergy that this deck has. Keep in mind, when you're sending Herald of the Arclight, you're turning Diviner of the Herald into a level 6 monster, so your synchro plays can become insanely powerful, seeing as Diviner of the Herald is a tuner monster. As mentioned before, Diviner of the Herald opens up Ultimaya Tzolk'in to this deck because of the level 6 monsters you play in Apprentice Illusion Magician and the Dark Magician Girl. Not to mention, you run so many spell and traps in this deck, Ultimaya Tzolk'in's effect feels live anytime you're able to put him on the field. And of course, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon being able to provide such a strong negate is so important for roguelike strategies. To round off the extra deck, one of the most powerful Xyz monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Beatrice, the Lady of the Eternal. Being able to make this card with 2 Apprentice Illusion Magician, or even with the Dark Magician Girl, makes this card so free in this deck. Foolishing, Dark Magician Girl, or even Soul Servant, acting as a pot of greed in the later stages of the game, makes Beatrice an insane Xyz monster for the Dark Magician strategy. Okay guys, that was our anime-inspired Dark Magician deck profile. I'm out here trying to make Yami Yugi proud. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support you guys have been showing. We've already cracked more than 100 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you guys. So make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing. As always, thank you guys so much, and peace!